We do not own the rights to anything or any music that's heard during the duration of this podcast. Also, a lot of these shows will have explicit content. So if you are not a fan of any cursing or profanity, you may want to walk away, but that does not mean that every show will consist of such.
Are you serious? Like, we at season 7? Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 seasons. Yeah, season 7. Magic number. If you know, you know. I'm not gonna go in depth with that, but yeah, this will be a very positive season. I don't know why and what's making me say that, but everything's changed. Everything is a lot different. I know the title you'll still see the podcast about sports and stuff, but yeah, you ain't gonna get no sports. Correction, you will still get sports because this is still called a podcast about sports and stuff. Just want to add that in there. I'm still, like I said, stuff is very fluctuating now. I found that the connection with things is to get people to talk, as well as me taking time to talk. So you'll notice it, especially when you hear the first few episodes of this season. But it's just about sitting down and just having good talk, good conversation. Pass the message. Y'all know they ain't going nowhere. If you know, you know. If you've been around for a while, you already know how we give it up. But just hang in there. The content's amazing. The moves are even more amazing. And just put yourself in the right headspace to get this information. So hope y'all enjoy. What is up? What's going on? Episode 375 of The Pass is here. I'm your host, BT, and this is going to be a very unpacking yet open dialogue episode or podcast, however you want to term or coin it. A lot has, of course, as many of you are unaware, I did do a recording last Saturday. Great content. Definitely go back and check out that episode. Got into quite a good amount of information. But this episode is going to be a little different. And I'm only saying it's going to be a little different because there is a lot that I'm beginning to realize is important. And you'll understand as we continue this dialogue and as you all walk with me. You can read by the title. This is going to be probably one of my first, I might be wrong, but this might be one of my first podcasts that I'm doing as what I'm calling a dedication podcast. And as I mentioned, I'll get more into that in just a bit. But I wanted to start off with just, before I get into my topics and everything I have, I really want people to love on those around you and show care and compassion to the people you have. We hear the phrase of how life is short or how everything can change in an instant. And you sometimes don't realize or don't think of the magnitude of that until you're having to witness or face a form of adversity in that avenue or lane. And that's really what I've been able to learn, gather, process, deal with, address over the last, I would say, 24 hours. As I'm gonna go more in depth about that in a few, but I want to kind of do I'll do a sports follow up or an NBA follow up, because now we have 3 of our 4 teams for the conference finals. LA was able to beat Golden State in 6. Let me catch this before it even happens, because I know how tech does when you don't need it to. LA was able to finish their series. Miami was able to finish their series against New York. Denver knocked off Phoenix, and the Celtics and Sixers are going to Game 7. It's going to be Game 7, and it's in Boston. Not sure how I want to sway with it, but the X factor has been the constant with the Philly Boston series, and that's James Harden. If James Harden shows up, plays a solid game, what you see is what you get. And it's also I call it the two-headed monster of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Both of them playing at a very high level. It becomes very, you become more aware. You become a lot more aware than you were before. The other series, I'm going to talk about those really brief. Denver and Phoenix. When Chris Paul had the groin injury, that was a big hit to Phoenix. But also, and everyone's talking about this, but we need to call it what it is. DeAndre Ayton has to play at a higher level than he's playing, especially when it comes to playoffs. You can't disappear and be the big man should not be disappearing in the playoffs. That just doesn't make sense. And I mean, ironically, or even more challenging is you're playing against Jokic. I was talking with one of my boys, his brother, yesterday about this, and it's the reality of the beast when it comes to a player like Jokic. Jokic is a very simple player, but the thing that makes Jokic a key player for the team, because if he had got MVP this year, it wouldn't have been a big surprise. But even though he didn't get it, you can see why he comes up in the conversation more frequently, because it's not what he primarily does with the ball. It's his off-ball movement and how when he has the ball, a lot goes on where he's able to get into the right place at the right point, whether it's to score a basket, whether it's to assist on a basket. Rebounding, there really isn't anyone that's going to compete with him on the rebounding level. His biggest competitor usually is Embiid. And it's interesting because both Embiid and Giannis, they play him twice a year, so they don't really see each other enough to really get like a good gauge, unless, which I mean, this year it's going to be a matter of what both Denver and Philly does, that they can meet each other in the finals. But hey, it is what it is. Lakers Warriors series, Jordan Poole. A lot of people, so there's one guy who I follow who really calls it what it is, and I respect him for it. He mainly pointed it out as Jordan Poole's a no-show. And the thing is, you need that third or fourth player to show up and do their part. Like, Draymond is going to do what we call the underlying stats. So the stats that you don't see on the box score is what Draymond does. But Jordan Poole has to be in there to get his part going, especially if Steph is off, if Clay is off. You don't have any scoring. You don't really get any scoring from Looney. And I mean, I've said this multiple times on the podcast regarding the Lakers. Vanderbilt is their biggest X factor, who showed up in Game 6, which did not surprise me, but I'm glad to see. Rui Hachimura got some key plays, like LeBron was kind of in his Showtime mode, especially with the game being in LA. And then I've noticed this, when LA plays on the road, you don't get as much of the Showtime form, but when they play in the crypto arena, you can see it. You definitely can see the difference of the energy and the excitement and the effort there for the team. And Miami, so the Miami New York series, I kind of saw playing out the way it did off jump, because Randall's a good player. So the Knicks have what I call the three lefties, and a lot of teams will have a three lefty squad, but the three lefty squad has to play great for them to really show that they are like that. You're gonna get it from Brunson. Jalen Brunson played an awesome series. I didn't look. I might be freestyling a little bit, but I don't think Jalen Brunson even made All NBA, which to me is like, come on, like, dude had a solid season. Yeah, I understand we don't put playoffs into it, but Jalen Brunson had a solid season. Like, you knew it was an interesting run or interesting discussion, because even LeBron wasn't. I think LeBron made like 13. Randall made third team. I think Mitchell made second. Yeah, Mitchell made second because the big story was Shy Gill just made first team. So yeah, but all of that being the case, like Jimmy Butler showed that he was that guy. You got what you needed to get out of the players while they were on the floor, and that's basically all that Spoelstra wants from you at the end of the day. So like I said, Miami is waiting on their winner. And I went away from the lefty part, but let me spin back to that real quick. Brunson did what Brunson did. Randall got a good, had a decent series. He kind of disappeared a fair amount. And RJ Barrett gotta bring it. Like I know, I get it. It's like some games are gonna be what they are, but if you don't those must-win games are called must-win games for a reason, and you can't. Is again, I'm saying this constantly and consistently. It's not just gonna be okay. Look at a box score and break down the game. It's also doing those things that are gonna benefit between the lines when the team needs you to step up the most and be involved. So, like I said, now we got Lakers in Denver. I'm early reaching, but I'm thinking I'm seeing Denver, but Denver really has to outplay LA, and it's kind of like a who can check who offset type of thing, because the teams now aren't the same teams they were when they played in the conference finals in 2020. 3 years, a lot has changed. Like LeBron is older. AD, we want to make sure he's going to be fully healthy. Jokic, I believe, understands his game a lot clearer, because now he's gotten two MVPs, as well as he's made a bigger mark on the team. Jamal Murray is playing at a much higher level now. Like Jamal Murray can always make an edge of being an all NBA player, but even if he doesn't make it, you understand, hey, it's just you got 15 other players who just had a better year. So yeah, those are your kind of offsets. My early reach for an X factor for this series is going to be Michael Porter Jr. Just run with me on that, and we'll circle back to it depending on if they make the finals, and I'll leave it at that. So that's everything I got for the NBA. All the NFL teams schedules were released. I did see someone's channel where they did like a rating of everyone's introduction of the schedules. Some of them were like, they didn't hit, and I honestly, it's 32 teams. I'm not watching all 32 of these. I watched the ones that like either friends I know are fans of, or just ones that was like, oh, this is a cool one. Like the Tennessee Titans one, I think might be the funniest, because they went to different fans in Tennessee and asked them like what the logo or the name of the teams were. And I believe, I might be wrong on this, but let me double check. But I want to say that the Atlanta Falcons literally changed their name to the Red Stallions because of what one of the girls said when they asked her what the team, what that team was called. But every team that they did, like I think the Carolina Panthers, they call them like the Carolina Tigers or something, and someone like did a photo of what the logo would look like and all that stuff. But it's a trend that people have been doing, where they will show like, guys will show their girlfriends like the different logos for teams and say, name this team, and they'll name what they think the team is, and then you'll have the NFL music that comes on, and I'm like, this is too funny, but it's so on point that you can't enjoy, like you have no choice but to enjoy how accurate it is. So yeah, that's what that is. Carolina did like a theatrical play to show like, all right, we're preparing for action and going to different scenes, and each scene was based on who they would be playing. Like I know we're playing Miami, we're playing Seattle. I don't have I had the schedule up at the time, but as far as like fully keeping track, I mean, it's May. I'm not gonna really think about the season until we start playing because I believe we play. I want to say the Jets we play first, and that's like our first game as far as preseason. Early projection because I'm thinking on it now. I want to go to the Dallas Carolina game, so I'm gonna see how I can pull that off and make that happen. So that is, I know, like I said, I know I said I was gonna do primarily NBA, but want to get that NFL update as well. All right, so I got a lot of topics to kind of bounce off of, but I'm gonna go through them in my methodical order and not make it too uneventful or too rushy. First and foremost, today is Stevie Wonder's birthday. I got thrown off when I looked on Twitter and I'm looking on the side. I was like, Stevie Wonder, I'm like, must be his birthday. And I pulled it up and of course showed today was his birthday. And anyone who knows me knows that anytime you talk about a Stevie song or Stevie album, I'm always going to say Songs in the Key of Life. Yes, it's a double disc, but technically in that time there was no such thing as a double disc. It was more so there were two records. And the records, if you put both of the records together, it would equate to the length of today's albums or today's music. A video I was playing this morning when I pulled it up was the song "Ribbon in the Sky," which ironically came out the year I was born. And even listening to it, it generated some emotion based on referencing the title, which I'll get to that in a few. But if you have not done so today or whenever you listen to the podcast, go back and get like a good Stevie Wonder listen in and get some good music in your flow. You might surprise yourself as to not necessarily what you'll learn, but what you'll enjoy as far as him as a musician, as an entertainer. And that's kind of where I'm at with that whole ordeal. So I'm going to give a disclaimer before I start this next topic because I know for a fact that sometimes when we say things or we share things, it can become more opinionated and less logical or less like contextual. And I want to be sure that I give a context. These are personal thoughts, personal views. I'm not saying that anything that I'm sharing is the tell all be all. But I shared a post and the post generated some very, very heavy attention and a dialogue that was kind of, I'm not even gonna say kind of, it was interesting. And I'm making sure I get my notes of what I have related to this before I just jump into this and make it a story, because anyone who knows me knows I like to make sure where I'm going or what I'm saying has like the proper context of what I'm trying to present in my delivery or dialogue. So I put up a status. The status was very vague. I will openly admit that. I have no denial of that portion. I have no discredit against that. The verbiage was, or the status said, survival mode is a myth. Now let me start and make sure I follow this up in saying, it is not 100% a myth. It's not really a myth to a T. I personally look at it as being a myth. Now, people may have the psychological wherewithal, they may have the mental health wherewithal for it, and they can see it being what they see it as. Because survival mode is ingrained in some aspects for some of us, not everyone, it can generate us feeling or being put into quote unquote survival mode. So I'm going to get all of those things on the table of saying this, and then I'll give kind of like a verbiage of what I mentioned in the perspective of where I was going with this. Now, again, I've had my dialogues offline. I've had dialogues through messaging, through actual conversations in commenting on the status, but I'm not here to make this in saying that what I said is right and that's it. So a few folks who I'm close with, one of them asked, why is it a myth? I said, my question was simple. What are we surviving from? Constantly, our mindset is that we're trying to survive to make it to the weekend, make it to tomorrow, make it to Friday. The end result is constant regardless. We're all going to leave this world when that time comes. And when I say it like that, and someone said this a while back to me, and when I heard it, I didn't think much of it before, but it really latches to me now, which is when your involvement on the earth occurs, the biggest impact is the smallest factor when it comes to what's seen. So for instance, on an obituary, if you look it up online, they will show the year that you were born, they will show the year that you passed away, and then there's that dash or the hyphen or whatever you want to call it. That dash has the biggest impact because that's what you're living and that's what you're doing now. So you want to do everything that you can in your power with that dash. And we're going to, at some point when we're no longer here, the dash has closed, and then it's the date that you're no longer here. So I then continued on. Survival just gets thrown out there so often, when the truth is that anything that has been put in front of us, we faced it head on and figured out a way to get through. That was my reason why I said it was a myth. And then I had a follow-up question of why is it, whether it really is a myth. Some based on how we're groomed, how we handle it. And I gave a different way of addressing it. Are survival mode and a rat race the same? I'm asking this because survival mode has a source that many of us ignore: our stress and sometimes our trauma. Walking around and sitting on the I'm fine boat is usually our mask. We know that we can tell people how we feel. It comes down to who we share the how we really feel with. Because how we really feel then factors into where or how our survival becomes pertinent or key to our journey. And again, like I said, I get what, a friend of mine said this, and I'm not against her on her thoughts of it. It can come off and can seem as where you're kind of hopping the fence about it. It's not really a fence hop dialogue for me. It's more so I'm just making it as a general statement. I'm not saying that it's law. I'm not saying it's truth. I'm just personally saying that I personally feel that it's a myth. Now, as far as sources, as far as information that confirms this, I don't have that type of energy or effort to sit and do research on it. When we go and do our day-to-day activities, we're not doing it with the intent of survival. We're doing it because we need to do it in whatever that thing is to get it accomplished. Because once you complete, anything, if you go to school, you finish school. Most of the time it's, hey, I finished school, I accomplished it. Or if you want to put it in the other side of it, I survived, I got through it. Cool, you survived that, now you have another thing that you're working on. It's almost like tasking without knowing that you're consistently put in a position to face or address tasks. So all of that being said, I'm not going to give a major amount of press to this, but I just want to share, just make it clear that if you personally are in a space that you feel like you're in survival mode, get help. If you feel like you're battling with yourself with trying to figure out what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, where your life is, where you think your life should be, talk to somebody. Talk to a licensed professional mental health professional, therapist, whomever you need to speak with, and get the help that you need. I am not sitting here saying to be that person of, hey, well, I know what it is, and you just need to get through it and suck it up. I'm just offering the general statement of a topic that the word gets thrown around so frequently that it has its validity to it, but it could also be blindly thrown in as the missing interpreter without knowing it. So that's all I want to share on that. without it being anything major. So talked about Stevie, talked about survival mode, branding apps. This is a story, but it's this literally happened like a couple days ago before I was even thinking of doing this podcast. Elon Musk is stepping down from Twitter. Thank goodness. He has found his successor. I forgot her name because I did have it up a moment ago, but let's see. He's still, and it's kind of like he's still going to be involved with Twitter, but he's just not going to be in the role of CEO. The new CEO is going to be Linda Yaccarino, and a lot of people have kind of done their research on her, and they're thinking that it's going to kind of be like a similarity from what he was doing. So it might still be business as usual. No certainty on that. It's a matter of what the state of Twitter becomes what we see over the next few months is going to tell us everything. Now, if she comes in and she starts firing more people, then I'll be like, we're still not. Y'all are still doing it. Y'all are still doing what y'all want to do. That makes sense to you all as a brand, and hey, it is what it is. It's not like the consumer has any control over it anyway, because the consumer is the product. The consumer is the product and doesn't know it. And I know I've said it multiple times, but it's just one of those things that you begin to observe more frequently as you're watching it all play out. And I've stated this already. Like I said, I mentioned this a little bit last week or a fair amount. As much as people may or may not be a fan of it, three to four things are going to be key for anyone who's doing any form of business right now. Website, if you're able to get someone who can do it, which I'm going to really be pushing to learn, because I talked about doing this before, but I think now that I'm in this lane and now that I have a more latching knack for wanting to get a feel for it, developing an app for your business, a logo or graphic design, a graphic brand of some sort, and flyers. If you put those together, that is what you call branding strategy. That is literally the full package that a lot of your designers are going to offer you to get what you're doing out there to other people. And most folks will easily say, I don't, and this is a dark line, but this is something that we have to think of. A lot of times individuals will say, oh, I don't want to pay for that. I can't afford it. I don't see the benefit in paying someone to run a website for me or do my design work or anything. It's very expensive. But then when you look at the return on investment of your product, if you're selling something, if people are buying your food or your product, your cosmetics, your anything, ceramics, any of that stuff, if they're buying it, then that's going to be what keeps those things to be paid for and maintained. Because the business funding is to circulate within the business. The personal funding is to be circulated within the personal. The challenge that people have, and I'm still learning this and working on this myself, is when we're doing something, we get our business, we get paid from something we do for business, and we don't let the money just be for what we need to use it in the business realm. We automatically go and we're like, oh, well, I got a little bit of money. Let me go get something to eat, or let me go do this or do that. Maintaining your website. If you're deciding you want to do a rebrand, you want to be able to have the funding to do that. Like, those things are where that money becomes key and pivotal to the circulation or the circulating flow of spending and managing. So again, do not, and I'm saying this, I'm reminding people of this because I don't want it to be in a couple years, why ain't nobody telling me to not be so reliable on Facebook or on Twitter to brand. Like, Facebook was down for a couple of hours back in 2021 and lost $7 billion. And you're thinking to yourself, like, I mean, how did they, like, what were they losing money from? Ad revenue. Ad revenue, and what's known in the tech world is PPC, which is pay per click. The more you're clicking, the more you're active on the app, the more that they're getting paid. I say this consistently. If you have the app open on your phone and are using the app on a regular basis, money is going to that app. Call it what you want. So we gotta find our way to promote ourselves without relying on the box or the applications. Like, there's a reason why if you want to do shipping or promoting, it's nothing wrong with putting your products through Walmart if Walmart is allowing you. It's nothing wrong with getting your item on Etsy if Etsy's offering you to sell that product. It's nothing wrong with getting your business in a digital form and using Gumroad. Gumroad, I think, and I'll share this, and I'm going to go to the next topic. Gumroad is probably one of the most underrated platforms for finding ebooks. And the reason I say that is because anyone who's pushing an ebook now is pushing it through Gumroad, whether you realize it or not. And Gumroad is going to be here for quite some time because they are great at what they do. And no one really realizes how great they are with what they do because it's not something that they aggressively or intently push. They have it there, but you have to be sure you're using that platform accordingly to put your PDF and put a good price. Because once you have your price, once you have folks to see that you have something on there and they can then check out other ebooks, it all comes together. And I'm even beginning to learn that that's going to be one of my sources that I want to really connect with on the designing aspect as well as the podcasting aspect. I've talked about this a few times where I've had someone bring to my attention that doing like podcast webinars or podcast topics to just help folks with getting their podcast out there. That's all it takes. You just need the right person to get your content in the right hands. And once that occurs, it's nothing but up from there. Like we hear that phrase like, oh, it's up and it's stuck, but it's like, it's up once you make the effort and once everything goes as it needs to. So hopefully that will help someone and it will make sense to someone on that level of pushing and getting their business out there to others and on a higher level. We'll close. This is gonna be my as I mentioned before, the title is Larry's Pod. Larry's my nephew. He's older than me, but we've been family through and through. And I'm doing this as a dedication and a share to remind you all that don't just check in on family and not give the proper effort to the check-in. The end of 2021, September of that year, my sister had her birthday. I text her, wish her happy birthday. She said, thank you. That was the last time I talked to her. Larry and I had a conversation, couldn't have been a month ago. It was about a month, maybe 2 months ago. And he had shared like that he was on tour. He had just did like some music. And I was like, oh, cool. Like I'm definitely, like I saw the stage presence. He was having a good time. And didn't realize that was the last time I would be messaging him. How I got the news and how I got the information about it kind of caught me off guard, and I'm not going to go too in depth with that, but I constantly circle back to this on a regular basis, and I really make this an open dialogue because it needs to be said. As Black people, we have to do better with telling people what's what and what's going on, and not kind of sort of telling what's going on. Because when the kind of sort of gets done, you don't get the information you need. And I'm not a big fan of that. I've never been a big fan of that. it's better to share and give the information and reach out and don't assume that someone's going to tell, because you don't know. You honestly aren't sure who is or who isn't aware. So, like I said, I'm dedicating this show to Larry. Specifically, I'm dedicating it to both Larry and Gloria. I'm gonna give a personal story, and then I'm gonna share a little bit more, and then I'll give a passive message, and we'll wrap this up. Beginning of this week, so I did the podcast Saturday while I was out of town. Sunday, chilled, went to a good event, rolled, came on back, went to work that Monday. Then I got off work and I was heading home, and I didn't realize that I was going to experience what I did, but I did. And that was, I was driving, car was in front of me, I'm on the highway, the car in front of me like put on brakes very abruptly, like just out of the blue. And in the process, I'm putting on my brakes, and I literally, like I said, I haven't been, and I could have been on 64 and would not have been paying attention. But I would not be surprised if the skid marks from my tires are on 64. Because I literally put on brakes as hard as I could. The car in front of me, I didn't hit the car in front of me. The car behind me didn't hit my car. There were a couple cars nearby. None of them were hit. Everything was fine with the whole process, but it was just the moment happening so fast. It literally caught me off guard. It was a lot to like just deal with and sit with. I share that because at that time, I kept saying to myself, I was like, there was a guardian angel watching over me, and I need to definitely be thankful and show gratitude. I don't personally show or give enough gratitude for what I do have, because a lot of times as humans, we're always looking at what we wish we had and what we wish we could be doing. And, you know, the biggest gift that we have that we don't value enough is life. And I knew or realized the magnitude of that, but I really didn't know or understand the magnitude of that until like everything that just recently like came along. And not too long ago, I had gotten the information from my mom related to him passing, but I heard her, but I didn't hear her or really put everything together. Yesterday was when it hit, and when it hit, I got through my day. Like it was like I went through work, then I'm needing help with something to look up something, and as I help with looking that up, that's when it all hit. And then here it is, like I'm dressed, getting ready to leave to go out. And in the process, while I'm out, I was like, I'm here, but I am not here. So it was like I showed up, and I had a good time. I talked, and we, all laughed and cut up. It was a good time. Like my boy, he got a promotion that he was waiting for, and I'm happy for him for that. But I was like, I can't. Like I know they were like, yeah, we're gonna go do this. We checking out this, and I was like, I'm gonna probably be the vanilla, boring person and just go home, and I did. Before I went home, though, I took a walk, and I needed to walk. I needed to reset. I needed to kind of get myself in order, and I did. Everything was fine there. I called a friend of mine and told her what was what. And we had talked, She had a call come in. She called me back. We talked for like another hour. And the interesting thing is, like, you really don't think of how impactful something is until it hits you. And that's really, like, in so many words or in a genuine nutshell, where I'm going, or why I wanted to share, talk about this whole, talk about everything. Because even at the time when all happened the way it did, the thing that I really don't talk about enough, but I'm going to talk about here is, and I might have already shared it on the podcast, but if I haven't, then, well, at the time when I wanted, because I'm almost thinking if I'm getting my dates together, I had connected with someone, we did our kind of catch up and check in or whatever, and then a couple days later was when he passed, and I didn't even know. And I think the toughest part is when we're trying to, like, personally grieve and get through things or work through something else comes along. It's like a proven, it's like known science or something. I don't even know how to describe it, but it's like folks know a thing. Life knows when you aren't really in that, like, oh, I'm prepared, or I can take this on, I'm good, and it's like, I'm not good. So all of that being said, I just want to share with you all, like, really take time, check in with yourself, love on others, reach out to people, even if it's for 2 minutes. And if it's more genuine if it's organic than if it's forced. If it's forced, it's going to be noticed. So just be organic with, like, just checking in on folks and being available to folks, because you really don't know what's going on. Message I'm gonna pass along. How do I follow that? And it's because I think right now I'm near the end of my plan in working out and everything, but I trying to see what's gonna happen, which is I'm gonna be sticking with this for a minute. And the message I'm passing along is just do the things that you can to work on your health. I'm not sitting here saying run out and buy a treadmill. I'm not saying go vegan. I'm not saying anything astronomically insane. But what I am saying is to just improve upon your health. And health is more than physical. Health definitely is mental. Whether anybody is ready for this conversation, health is spiritual. Your spiritual health and your spiritual well-being are so neglected. And sometimes you don't realize how neglected they are until you really sit with it and really layer it down, like, oh, it's really playing a part on my day-to-day, and I didn't even know. And sometimes we don't know. I think that's the bigger part of it too, is when we're in the functioning state of motion or movement, and we're just kind of looking at it like, oh, I'm good, everything's fine, everything's smooth. But it then comes back to the question of, is it smooth, or are you just presenting yourself as it being smooth? And to kind of carry it a step further, is it you looking at it being smooth, or is it your representative putting it out there as it's smooth? So please take those times and take those moments and opportunities to put your mind, your body, your spirit in a better position health-wise. Again, I'm not sitting here saying if you were trying to work on you and get you in a better flow, I'm not sitting here saying go out and run a 5K tomorrow. I'm not saying run a treadmill crazy, or run around the city. I'm saying to just take more time for and with yourself, and not feel like you have to put yourself in that survival mode state that I was talking about earlier, or just feel like you have to be rushed. many of my friends, and I'll put this out there, and we gone. Many of my friends don't understand it about me, where they are the type that's like, go, 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 hurry up, let's rush, let's do this. And me, I'm the type where if I even remotely feel like I'm being rushed, I back out. I'm not as involved and I'm not as hands-on. And most folks don't get that because their attitude of things is, we got to get it done. And it's like, we shouldn't be having to work from behind with something that is not a behind workable thing. So if you're that, saying that, if you're doing, like, if you get up, if you get up in the morning and you got to get ready for work, or you got to get ready to go out or whatever, is it easier for you to have everything already out for what you need? Or if your things are in like simple areas that you can get to, that's one thing. But most folks will like do all their stuff and they're like, oh, I gotta find this, I gotta get this, and I'm like, this can really be avoided if you just come up with a pattern or a path. And everyone does not like patterns or paths, because then it puts you in a figuring out how to piece it all together when it's going to piece itself together regardless. So again, my message, take care of your health and yourself. And if you need your time to break, reset, just do it. No one needs to get an announcement like, oh, I'm taking a break. Oh, I need to shut down. Oh, I'm going through a whole lot right now. Just do what you got to do. And even when you come back, just come back. Don't got to like it. The announcements aren't required. Like, I think we get so caught up in trying to like do a PDA or not a PDA, a PSA and put it out there like, oh man, blah, blah, blah. I should have been there for y'all. And I feel bad that I wasn't. And it's like, you can't be there for everybody and then neglect yourself in the process. Like, the math will never math with that. So that's what I got for y'all. I hope y'all have an amazing day. Hope you have an amazing weekend. Oh damn, I done did the whole show and I'm tripping. Happy Mother's Day. If you are a mother, if you play the role of a mother, if you are in a space where you are without your mother, happy Mother's Day. Please hone in on the importance of not just the mothers, but family. Y'all take it easy, and we'll do this again next time. Peace. Another episode is completed. Thank you all for listening. If you want to check out the podcast, you can go to buzzsprout.com. If you're looking to do podcasts, you can go to buzzsprout.com. To get to my podcast, you'll go to the pastbtpod.buzzsprout.com. If you're looking at getting a microphone, I always suggest getting the Blue Yeti X. That is the microphone that I use. If you're starting off and you need something more affordable, Samson Meteor, it's a worthwhile investment. And there are other microphones that are going to be simple enough. My big suggestion I tell everyone whenever looking for a microphone, be sure that your microphone has the ability to have you listen to your audio or listen to yourself as you're talking. It will make a big difference in your editing in your podcast. Also, most importantly, and I tell people this is a tip offline, but I'm giving this in the final listen or at the end of the show. Drink water while recording, and also just drink water in general. But drink water while you're recording, and the reason why, you'll be surprised. All right. See y'all on the next show.